Hello and welcome. This is the Federal Podcast. I am Aprameya. India created history in Bridgetown, Barbados on June 29th by winning the ICC T20 World Cup 2024. With this, India's 11-year wait for an ICC trophy has ended. The Rohit Sharma-led side went all the way without losing a game and set a new record. India are only the third team to win the ICC T20 World Cup twice, joining West Indies and England. To talk about India's triumph, we have senior cricket writer R Kaushik joining us from Bridgetown. Thanks, Kaushik, for speaking to the Federal.
Hi, Apu. Nice to be back, and nice to be back to be discussing good things.
Right. Kaushik, it was a tense final against South Africa that was decided in the last over. India held their nerves to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat by 7 runs. South Africa needing 30 runs of 30 balls with 6 wickets in hand, but could not cross the finish line. India's victory was possible in the final 5 overs thanks to the brilliance of bowlers Jasprit Bumrah, Arshdeep Singh, and Hardik Pandya. Kaushik, you were at the ground watching the match. Your thoughts? How did India manage to pull this off?
Well, Apu, throughout the tournament, we have also spoken about it, and we have written lots. People have said lots about him, but Jasprit Bumrah truly is a magician. And while
Right,
yes, Arshdeep Singh bowled beautifully in that 19th over, and Hardik Pandya bowled very well in the 16th and the 20th overs, it is what Bumrah did. That's what changed the course of the match. Because when Bumrah was called on to bowl in the 16th over, Akshar Patel had just been taken for 24 by Henrik Klaasen. That's what brought the equation down to 30 of 30. So Rohit
right,
called Bumrah. Okay, yes, a wicket would have been fine, but the important thing was to stem the bleeding at that stage. And by the time Bumrah had a ball that was reversing just a little bit, he bowled an exceptional 16th over, only 4 runs. And therefore, slowly the pressure started to build. In T20 cricket, all it takes is 3, 4 balls, and the pressure just transfers from one team to the other. And that's what Bumrah is so good at doing. It's one thing to have all the skills, and I don't think there's any more skilled bowler in world cricket right now than Bumrah. So it's one thing to have the skills, but to be able to execute those skills under the kind of pressure that he was under. Because when Rohit threw the ball to Bumrah, everyone knew that was the crucial phase of the match. Yes, South Africa were the firm favourites at the stage. Klaasen was batting beautifully. Miller had just got his eye in, but you felt that if someone could change the destination of the tournament, the trophy, then it would be Bumrah. And to have that kind of pressure on your shoulders, we can't even imagine that kind of pressure, can we, Apu? And to then
right, right.
step up in that position and to deliver that spell, 2 overs for 6 runs, he got the wicket of Jansen with a screamer. And of course, it helped that Pandya came from the other end and got Klaasen out. And once Klaasen went, then India felt that suddenly that they had a chance because South Africa's batting is not that very deep. So the moment Klaasen went, India were all over South Africa. That was South Africa's game to lose, who at 30 of 30, needing 30 of 30. And then for
Right.
India to step up and deliver those knockout blows, it was just awesome to watch.
And finally, the wait for that ICC trophy, and India have been consistent over the years, reaching the finals, and they couldn't cross the final hurdle. But this time, everything aligned perfectly.
Yes, it's
And
almost
thanks
as
to
if
Bumrah, as you mentioned.
yes, yeah, Bumrah, yes, but of course we can't forget Surya Kumar's catch in the final over, the
Right,
first ball of that final over when he had David Miller's catch. That was again under pressure to make those kind of decisions. It just shows the calmness within the group, the self-belief. These catches look spectacular on television, but when you go and watch practice sessions of all teams, not just the Indian team, you know that these are catches that they really practice. It's not a fluke or it's not a freak occurrence because they do it day in and day out. At every practice session, they have these kind of catches. But to translate that again in a pressure situation, the ball was in the air for such a long time that you have so much time to think. And you're thinking, oh, the destination of the cup is in my hands. If I drop this, it goes for 6. 16 of 6 becomes 10 of 5. There are just so many thoughts swirling in your head, plus the wind, which also makes the ball swirl. So in that situation, to be able to retain your composure and the way he caught the ball beautifully, nonchalantly tossed it up, went out, came back in and completed the catch. Well, that is where the game was won and lost. I mean, I know everything else that happened before it and after it was equally important, but it was that one moment that you could see that like South Africa, just all the hope went out of them. Miller was there. It was 3 6s in the final over. If you break it down, actually it was 3 6s in the final over. If anyone is capable of
right.
doing it, it's David Miller. We have seen that in the IPL. We have seen that in the past for South Africa. And once Miller went, then 16 or 5 balls was almost impossible. So yes, Bumrah, yes, Arshdeep, yes, Pandya, but Surya's composure, that great catch. And Rohit's leadership, you should not forget the way he kept his composure. The worst thing that can happen is when a captain loses his cool and he looks like he's not in control. Rohit is one of those guys who's so calm under pressure. You will never know looking at him whether the team is winning or the team is losing. And that is the kind of cue the team needs from its captain, calmness. And this Indian side is so experienced that there is a lot of inherent calmness, but also when it comes down from the leadership, and it makes a huge difference.
And what a time to get his first off century of the tournament. Virat Kohli is stepping up on the big day. 76 crucial runs and Akshay Patel's 47 as well, and their partnership when India batted.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Aksar, because he's one of the unsung heroes of this Indian campaign. He's done all the difficult jobs. Against Pakistan, he was promoted to number 4 when India lost 2 quick wickets. He had a good partnership with Rishabh Pant in that game. He only made 20, but India needed somebody to stay with Pant and stabilize the innings. Yesterday, 3 quick wickets. You knew you had Shivam Dubey in the hut. You knew you had Hardik Pandya in the hut, but you didn't want them to bat in the 6th and the 7th over. You wanted somebody who could not just go there and stay around with Kohli, but also somebody who could force the pace. And we know Akshar Patel is a very, very, very capable batter. We have seen that in Test cricket. We have seen that in limited overs cricket. And yesterday, after a blazing start, Kohli hit 3 4s in the first over of the final. And then when the wickets fell, I think he sort of realized that he needed to bat as deep as possible. So he took a backward step. Some of us might say that he was probably too cautious because there was a period of 35 balls in between where he did not hit a single boundary. And in the end, he caught up because that is the class of the man. That is the quality that he possesses. But the Akshar Patel contribution at that stage when we were 20 odd for 3, for him to step up and play the kind of innings that he did, that made a huge difference to the final tally. 176 did not look massive. It was not a small total, but it was not a match-winning total until India's fast bowlers got into the act in the last 5 overs.
Kaushik, after the victory, we saw 2 retirements at the ground. First, it was Kohli from T20 internationals, and Rohit Sharma followed in the post-match press conference. And the next day, all-rounder Ravindra Jadeja also has announced retirement from T20. So, what does this mean going forward for Indian cricket? These three, if I may say, stalwarts of the shorter version of the game.
Definitely stalwarts, Apu, no doubt about it. You look at Rohit, he's got 5 T20 hundreds, international hundreds, which only Glenn Maxwell of Australia has got. He was in the Indian team in 2007 when under Dhoni, India won the T20 World Cup for the first time. It's been 17 years. He's not getting any younger, nor is Kohli for that matter. And in these days, to play all 3 formats consistently, the demand for the Indian team is so high because of their popularity, because they attract sponsors, because they attract crowds. People want them to play and people want India's best players to play, which is just not possible. It might look like a job for them, but the kind of stress that they are under physically and mentally doing that job can take a huge toll. So you go back to Jadeja, and Jadeja is someone who's been around for 15 years. It's easy to forget that he's 33, 34 years old. So these have been great servants of Indian cricket. There is a general perception that T20 cricket is a young man's game, but well, this Indian team has proved that it need not be a young man's game. That experience has got as much of a role to play, especially under pressure situations like we saw towards the end of last evening's match. So it is time for India to move on. It's that these guys, when they're leaving, they know that they left the Indian T20 team in a good place. They have lots of excellent match winners. You have a pretty good captain in the waiting in Hardik Pandya. You have the world's best bowler. You have Surya Kumar, who's the #1 batter in the world. You have a good set of fast bowlers coming up. There's a lot of spin options. So they have left Indian T20 cricket in a much better place than it was when they started playing the sport. And all we can say is hats off to them. And I'm really particularly happy for Rohit that he's walking out on a high because he's changed the ethos of Indian cricket in a lot of ways. And he deserves something tangible to celebrate his contributions to Indian cricket. What better way than to have the World Cup winners medal around your neck?
And one more man doing all the things behind the scenes. He doesn't like to hog the spotlight. The legend Rahul Dravid. It was his last day as Indian team's head coach. Your thoughts on his contribution to Indian cricket in these years as an Indian coach?
Yeah, Apu, we know Rahul Dravid's sort of history with the Caribbean, if you like. It was here 1997, very early in his Test career. He had the same venue in Bridgetown, India, were chasing 120 to win a Test match, got out for 81. Rahul was a captain in 2007 when India lost in the first round of the 50-over World Cup. He was also the captain in 2006 when India defeated West Indies in Jamaica. And it was the first time in 35 years since Wadekar in 71 that India won a test series in the West Indies. Rahul Dravid made two fantastic half centuries on a really, really tricky pitch. But there was unfinished business. And, for his term ended at the end of the 50 over World Cup. And the BCCI was desperately trying to get VVS Lakshman to take over from Rahul Dravid. But Lakshman, for various reasons, is reluctant to take up the coach's job. So they requested Dravid to continue till the T20 World Cup for the sake of continuity, for the sake of constancy in selection, for the sake of consistency in thinking and approach to the game. And this is like the perfect gift for him for all that he has done for Indian cricket. Like he himself said yesterday, he's played in World Cups in the past. He was in the team that lost the 2003 final to Australia. He
Right.
never won a World Cup when he was a player, and for him to walk out on a high like this with the World Cup winners' medal around his neck as well, you saw how much it meant to him. We have never seen Rahul Dravid celebrate so animatedly and so uninhibitedly after any match, any success, and the way he just went nuts after the victory. It just shows how much it meant to him and how long he had craved for something like this.
Right, Kaushik. You have traveled to the US and the Caribbean islands throughout this tournament, ICC T20 World Cup. Kaushik, how was the response in both these places? And was it a well-organized tournament? We already spoken, there were less number of people at the stadium, but the millions of people watched on television. So your thoughts on the way the tournament was organized by the ICC?
Yeah, Apu, you always feel, I mean, it looks a little silly to nitpick and stuff at the end of a tournament like this, especially when a popular victor has emerged. But I think things could have been a lot better. The scheduling, for instance, when you look at the Super 8s and the knockouts, the first phase of the tournament started on June 1st and it ended on June 17th. And then the second phase started on June 19th and ended on June 29th, which is 15 matches in 11 days. And lots of travel for the 8 teams that made it to the Super 8s. So yeah, not ideal. The teams sort of understood, and even if they had reservations, they didn't want to express them in public. But though privately, they spoke about how much of a strain it was mentally, physically. You look at the Indian team, for instance, they played the first three Super 8s in three different islands. Then they had to go to a fourth island to play the semi-final, and then fly back the same night to Barbados for the final. Which is it was the same for pretty much all the teams, and it's not the ideal situation. Not when you're playing for the final of the World Cup, which is such a huge thing. So a lot of lessons to be learned. I think the ICC was desperate to get a toehold into the American market more than anything else. Whether they
Right.
succeeded, I'm not sure, because they built a big stadium in New York for the group games there, and then within days of the New York leg getting over, the stadium was dismantled. The pitches are going back to Adelaide where they were made. So I really don't know how much of an impact they were made on the American people. But from a larger perspective, well, new champions emerging. Like you said, India haven't won an ICC title for 11 years. They haven't won a World Cup for 13 years. South Africa had never made the final uh, of a World Cup. And then now here they are. They were within two shots of winning the final. America made it to the Super 8s. There were good performances from Nepal. So there's lots to look forward to, lots to celebrate. But yeah, as as an organizational effort, I think it left quite a bit to be desired.
And we have already spoken the way Afghanistan reached the semi-finals. A few words on them, Kaushik.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot Afghanistan and all this, but I think that's also in a
Right.
way a compliment to Afghanistan, because whatever they do now is no longer a surprise or a shock. They're not underdogs anymore. They're the team that everyone is afraid of in T20 cricket because they're a strong side in their own right. There was a time when Afghanistan was spin heavy. So you thought, okay, the spinners will come into the picture. But throughout this tournament, we have seen that their openers, Rahmanullah Gurbaz and Ibrahim Zadran, Gurbaz finished on top of the run scorers in the World Cup, which is a fantastic achievement. So their batting is slowly coming of age, and they're putting together an excellent fast bowling unit. Like Gurbaz, Fazaluk Farooqi finished on top of the wicket-taking charts, and a left-arm seamer from Afghanistan on top of the pile in the wicket-taking charts in a T20 World Cup. That's great news for world cricket. Naveen Haq is a very good bowler. So they have the trappings of a really, really good side. And don't be surprised if in the next 3, 4 years they end up actually winning the World Cup, because they're that good.
Right. One last question, Kaushik. What is next for Indian cricket? We know a tour is due to Zimbabwe with all the young players, and Shubman Gill is leading the side. And the way forward, later this year, what is going to happen?
Yeah, we know that we're going to have a new coach, Apu. From all accounts, it's Gautam Gambhir. We haven't had a formal confirmation of that yet, but it's probably one of the worst kept secrets in world cricket that Gautam is going to take over as the head coach from Rahul Dravid. He will not be going to Zimbabwe. That much is sure. But his first assignment is most likely to be in Sri Lanka towards the end of July. But that is just the first stop in a long journey, because this is like really a long and sort of demanding a year, if you like, for Indian cricket, the next 12 months, because there are 5 home tests against New Zealand and Bangladesh, which should help the team sort of get used to the 5 red ball cricket as they go to Australia in their summer for 5 test matches. India won the last 2 series in Australia, so there will be pressure on Gambhir very early in his coaching stint. And then there is the World Test Championship. Then there's a 5-test tour of England in the summer next year. So this, and between there is the Champions Trophy, which is scheduled for February, March. It's supposed to be hosted by Pakistan. I think everyone sort of knows that India will not travel to Pakistan, so it might be a sort of a hybrid model, the Champions Trophy. So there is a 5-test series in Australia. There is a 50-over Champions Trophy, and then a 5-test series in England. So lots of high intensity cricket ahead of the Indian team, ahead of the new coach. So yeah, exciting times, demanding times. But if you ask the players, would they rather play tough cricket rather than sort of low intensity cricket, they will tell you that tough cricket is what excites them and drives them, and therefore there's plenty to look forward to.
Yeah, Kaushik, plenty to look forward to, and thanks for your thoughts throughout this World Cup, and we will reconnect soon.
Thanks, Apu. Great to catch up with you again, and let's hope that this is the beginning of a new era in Indian cricket.